Hello, managers, and welcome to episode 3 of the 2016 BROhio show called Totally Defeated. We're going with Totally Defeated as the title this week because as of week 3 being completed, we have no teams that are without a defeat and 7 teams that are 2-1. So, very exciting that we are keeping it close and no one is running away being undefeated. Starting off with 2 special announcements. One is important, and I'll do that one second. The first one is annoying, and that is that we still have 2 of you that have not voted in the Best Team Name 2016 poll, and this is going on its 3rd week now. So I am going to be texting people and figuring this out and who it is, and I'm going to call them out and let everyone know who it is so everyone can rag them because it is so frustrating when I'm trying to get this stuff done. The more important announcement is that the way that ties are scored, I'm going to be changing it in the settings, and you guys can check it out. But basically, I'm going to be starting to record ties as ties instead of having the current setting I had was that whatever team was the home team would get the win in the event of a tie. And the other option is having whatever team scores more bench points in the event of a tie win. But I don't like either of those options, really considering how it affects the game. One is kind of just luck, and the other is affected by what sort of strategy you're going for with your bench, if you're utilizing it for players that are scoring points, or if you're utilizing it for players that are sleepers that are injured or are suspended or whatever. So I'm going to be changing that to start recording ties. So someone could have the record of like 3-1-1, something like that would be an example. So moving on, the tits this week we have 2 trades. The first trade between Russell and Roger. This was a big one. Russell got Andy Dalton, Christine Michael, and Rob Gronkowski, and Roger got Isaiah Crowell and Jordan Reed. So really interesting, especially since they were facing each other this week, but it didn't really have a huge impact. We'll see long term if Gronk and Christine Michael do well, how quickly Rawls comes back. Andy Dalton is hit or miss. Crowell's doing okay, and Jordan Reed's a solid tight end starter, just like Gronk. So it really pretty balanced trade. And I think Rodgers banking on Rawls coming back, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe Andy Dalton goes crazy. The other trade is between David and myself, and I gave David Tevin Coleman, and David gave me Willie Snead. Unfortunate for me, Willie Snead had a minor injury right after the trade, so I wasn't able to play him, and Tevin Coleman did have a very good week this week. So props to David for doing that trade, but I think I'm feeling optimistic about long-term Willie Snead value over Tevin Coleman. But I don't know. I'd be worried if I was the Devontae Freeman holder. Moving on to the injuries. I'm just going to go through the new ones, and some of these are speculative, but I'm just trying to go off the really early injury reports since I try to release this on Tuesday. There's not a lot of injury reports for week 4 out this early, but the new ones, we have Cam Newton and Russell Wilson in the quarterback slots. Running backs, Ryan Matthews, Jeremy Langford. Those are the newer ones. Wide receiver, Des Bryant, Michael Floyd, Willie Snead. We have Corey Coleman, who's out. And for tight ends, Antonio Gates, Delaney Walker, Eric Ebron, and continuing to watch everyone else. For the tits, moving on to trophies, we have no weekly trophies, which are the touchdowns and the 7s and 6s and monsters. None of those this week, although we were close with a couple players that got 32 points. But everyone got a touchdown, and I think no one had more than 7. Going through the long-term trophies, Nathan is now the holder of the Bomb Trophy, which at 338 points. He has the most points this season so far. Russell is the dead fish holder at 217, so that's our range of points, 217 to 338. Superman trophy has changed hands from Nathan to Deladies this week. Mary Lou and Sarah, with a 128-point week, surpasses Nathan's previous week 1 Superman. And Russell still has the toilet week from week 1 at 59 points, and Russell still has the worst loss at 63 points. And Russell still has the fighter trophy. This week it's up to 338 points. So praying for Russell's team for sure. And that's it for the tits. Moving on to our interview, I will pass it over to you, Kyle. Who do you have with you today?
Today, I have with me Justin, the owner of The Girly Show, and Sarah, co-owner of Deladies. How are you guys doing today?
Really great.
Good.
That's good. So, Justin, feeling pretty bad for you with Carson Wentz on your bench, one of your favorite players. Could have been a win for you.
Well, to be honest with you, it doesn't feel that bad.
Why not?
Because there are 3 things that I love more than my fantasy team. 1, the Eagles. They win.
Okay.
2, my wife, Sarah. She won.
Aww.
And 3, watching Nathan lose.
Oh, Nathan!
So,
oh, man.
I'm going to get over it pretty quick.
Shots fired.
Got Giselle all over his own
At
face.
Giselle. Okay, so while Nathan's wiping that Giselle off his face, a question for Sarah: why'd you stick with the Kansas City defense, and how does it feel getting so rewarded?
Well, I owe it all to Fitzpatrick.
Gotcha.
All his interceptions. But no, it's awesome. Over 30 points when last couple weeks they didn't give me very much, but wiped the floor with them, so we're good.
That's good. Yeah, it was so close for the Kansas City defense special teams to getting a monster trophy this week. That's pretty crazy. Russell, I think, got a monster trophy for Arizona defense last year, but that would be insane to have another defense break 35. Final question for you guys. Who are your playoff predictions?
Well, it's tough to say, but I can tell you for sure it's not going to be Nathan. Probably me. For sure me.
And me.
And Sarah. She can be in there. And maybe
I'm thinking Luke.
Kyle and Luke?
Kyle and Luke.
Me and Luke?
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'd love to be in there.
I'm cool with that.
All right. Back to you, Kyle.
Wow, that was a very entertaining interview. But we are going to move on now to the matchup reviews. So first matchup, myself versus Tyler. We were projected similarly, but Tyler outscored his projection and I did not meet mine. My overperformer was T.Y. Hilton at 23 points, and then my underperformer and poor sit decision go together with the Steelers at -4, and the Eagles would have been a 20-point swing for me this week. But at least for me, my saving grace is knowing that making that change would not have won me the game. However, making that change and not doing that Tevin Coleman trade, I may have won. So a little bit of salt on my end. But Tyler did well. Jarvis Landry at 19 points. And really no one did that bad on his team. The Jets had 4 points. And he could have had 7 more points with Sterling Shepard. But Tyler's team's starting to perform as they should. I'm sure he's happy about that. Good game, Tyler, but I'll get you next time. I think I face you again here near the end of the season. Moving on to game 2, Justin versus Austin. Austin came out with the win. It was a close one. Justin at 86 points this week, 32 of them coming from Marvin Jones. So Marvin Jones is very valuable now. He's in the wide receiver 1 discussions. And I am very jealous that Justin has him. But this week, just like defense was kind of my mistake, really the Steelers-Eagles game threw it off. But for Justin, playing Fitzpatrick over Carson Wentz could have changed the outcome. Like we talked about, Fitzpatrick at -3 and Carson Wentz would have been a 24-point swing, would have been enough to overtake Austin. But props to Austin, did really well with his Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson combo at 22 points for Nelson. Tyrell Williams was his weakest performer at 6 points, and Jeremy Hill would have been a 16-point swing. But yeah, that was a fun game to watch. I was enjoying that one. Very exciting fantasy game. Moving on to David and Zach. David was projected to get blown out by 21 points. However, Zach's team just really dropped the ball. David had Tevin Coleman from the trade at 26 points and Jordan Cameron, minor injury at 0 points. And Deshaun Jackson would have been 11 more points for him. He got about what he was projected, but Zach really struggled, and it's due to Carson Palmer here. Similar to Justin's team this week, Carson Palmer only 3 points, and Jameis Winston would have been a 22-point swing. Mike Evans did well at 19, but not enough to get the win from David. So David gets his first win this week over the Slippery Soap. Russell and Rodgers' game was decided pretty early. I was hoping for a closer game just because of that trade that they did. I wanted to see how that would impact things, but it didn't work out too well. Christine Michael at 22 points, Devontae Freeman at 26, comparable running back play. However, I would be worried if I was Roger with Devontae Freeman. Tevin Coleman was getting a lot of looks today. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. Will Fuller, only 3 points, and I definitely feel for you, Russell. I had DeAndre Hopkins, and he only got me 5. He really was another one of my weaker performers, and I'm sure that you being a Texans lover are really hating to see that 3 next to Fuller's name. And Demaryius Thomas with 11 points because everything we talked about earlier this season with the auto draft. Roger with Kelvin Benjamin putting up a 0, and Tavon Austin would have been a 16-point swing. So missed out on a little bit of points there, but still got the W. So good job, Raj. Moved up to second place overall. I'll show the standings here shortly. Andrew versus Luke. I cannot be more pleased that Luke was defeated. Andrew did well with Carlos Hyde at 24. And actually, Andrew is the first manager this season to have a game or a week where he played his best lineup. So he had no possible better score than 93 this week, with Eric Decker being the weakest performer at 3. Interesting note, Decker was the overperformer on his team last week. So passing the love around on the Hauschka of cards. Definitely a political thing there going on. Luke, Vikings defense is just destroying, and that is definitely scary, but Julio Jones only 1 point. Running backs got all the love this week with David and Rogers' team, so Luke definitely was very sad about that. With Jordan Howard would have been 7 more points, but probably nothing that anyone would ever do is put Jordan Howard in over Julio Jones. So final game is between Mary Lou and Sarah versus Nathan. And this was another really exciting game. We talked about it during the interview. Mary Lou and Sarah had the Chiefs defense get 32 points. That was huge. Phillip Rivers put up a week 11 points, and Russell Wilson wouldn't have done much better. But 128 points this week on their team, a lot of touchdowns, not enough for a king, but it was a big week for them. They now have the Superman week. And Nathan, putting up the second most points, however, gets a loss this week. So it's really sad for Nathan, second most points, but at least he has those points for playoffs. Kind of makes up for the Kyle Rudolph. Man, he'd be rolling in the points. But LeGarrette Blount and Doug Baldwin, they both did really well, scored 22 points this week. Cam Newton was having a lot of trouble with that Vikings defense. only had 12 points, and Devontae Adams could have been a 3-point addition, but not enough to win. So good job, everyone, this week. I thought that this was one of the most exciting weeks for our fantasy league so far. Looking forward to bye weeks coming up here in a little bit. I think that's going to add some more strategy and stuff. I'll put up the current standings now with the trending slots. And like I said, Nathan is reigning supreme at the top of the list. Even though he got the loss, he still moved up because he had a lot more points than Luke and I. Roger as well, getting a 3-digit score this week, bumped him up, and now he's in second. Luke and I fall to third and fourth. Austin and Justin and Andrew round out the 2-1 teams. Austin with 290, Justin with 273, and Andrew with 264. We have a big group of the 2-1s, and that'll change next week. Mary Lou and Sarah, Tyler, Zach, and David are the 1 and 2 teams. And Mary Lou and Sarah have a pretty competitive points for. They just have been getting some losses, a lot of points against them. But yeah, definitely competitive still. And really, I think Tyler, Zach, and David all have somewhat competitive teams that could still in the dark horse area. Russell, the only 0-3 person, totally defeated, I guess is another way to look at the title of the episode. But still in it for the fighter trophy at 338 points against, but also has the least points for. So that's just most points against, least points for. It's just really unlucky, bad situation for Dak Lives Matter. But we were actually talking about the Dak Lives Matter kind of being representative of his team now with Christine Michael. He's got some backups, and so it's like backups matter, like Dak. So it's kind of funny. And that is it for the standings. This was a great week. My final thoughts, I'm going to figure out the poll, and just to reiterate the tying situation. If there is a tie, it will be recorded as a tie, and I'm going to go make that change now after I finish up the video. But yeah, hope you guys are enjoying BROhio this year, week 3 out of 16. So we're getting our groove on. You guys have a good one, and good luck week 4.
I owe it all to Kyle and Luke. I owe it all to Kyle and Luke. I owe it all to Kyle and Luke. And me.